From the savannas of Africa to the frozen Arctic, the natural world is a tapestry of life and death, of triumph and tragedy. But this cycle of rise and fall is not limited to the animal kingdom. Throughout history, humanity has witnessed its own share of dramatic ascents and devastating downfalls, particularly in the realm of power. Welcome to Geography Library. In the episodes to come, we will journey through time, exploring the lives and deaths of powerful leaders who met their end not on the battlefield facing a foreign foe, but at the hands of their own people. These individuals, once revered or feared, eventually faced the wrath of rebellion, the sting of betrayal, and the cold hand of execution. Their stories serve as stark reminders that power, however absolute it may seem, is often a fickle and fleeting thing. Few figures loom as large in the imagination as Gaius Julius Caesar. A brilliant military strategist, a shrewd politician, Caesar rose through the ranks of Roman society, his ambition matched only by his charisma. His campaigns in Gaul, recounted in his own commentaries, cemented his reputation as a military genius, expanding Rome's dominion and filling its coffers with the spoils of war. Yet Caesar's very success sowed the seeds of his downfall. The Roman Senate, once a bastion of republican ideals, grew wary of his growing power and popularity. Whispers of dictatorship and tyranny began to circulate, casting a long shadow over Caesar's triumphs. Despite the growing unease, Caesar, perhaps blinded by his own success, seemed oblivious to the danger gathering around him. He continued to consolidate his power, accepting titles and honors that further alienated the Senate. Among the senators, a plot was hatched. A conspiracy spearheaded by men Caesar had considered friends, men like Cassius and even Brutus. On the Ides of March 44 BC, as Caesar entered the Senate, he was surrounded. Daggers were drawn, and the once mighty general, betrayed by those he trusted most, fell to the ground, pierced by 23 wounds. The death of Caesar plunged Rome into a period of civil war, marking the end of the Republic and the dawn of the Roman Empire, a legacy forged in blood and betrayal. Louis XVI ascended to the French throne in 1774, inheriting a kingdom steeped in tradition but teetering on the edge of a precipice. He was a young man, ill-prepared for the immense responsibilities that came with absolute rule. His queen, Marie Antoinette, was equally ill-equipped, known more for her extravagance than her political acumen. France, under Louis's reign, faced a multitude of problems. The treasury was depleted, drained by costly wars and lavish court expenses. The gap between the wealthy aristocracy and the impoverished peasantry had widened into a chasm. As discontent simmered amongst the populace, whispers of revolution began to circulate. The French people, inspired by Enlightenment ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity, grew increasingly restless under the yoke of an absolute monarchy that seemed indifferent to their plight. In 1789, with the storming of the Bastille, the French Revolution erupted, forever altering the course of history. Louis XVI, hesitant and indecisive, proved incapable of stemming the revolutionary tide. He and his family became prisoners of the revolution, their fate intertwined with the volatile currents of popular unrest. As the revolution grew more radical, Louis's position became increasingly precarious. Accused of treason and conspiracy with foreign powers, Louis XVI was put on trial by the National Convention. The verdict was a foregone conclusion. On a cold January day in 1793, Louis XVI was led to the guillotine, his reign and his life brought to an abrupt and brutal end. In the vast and unforgiving landscape of Russia, a dynasty that had ruled for centuries was approaching its twilight. Tsar Nicholas II, the last emperor of Russia, inherited a realm teeming with social unrest and political turmoil. Nicholas, a deeply religious man, believed wholeheartedly in his divine right to rule, a belief increasingly out of touch with the realities of a rapidly changing world. The echoes of industrialization were sweeping across Europe. bringing with them not just progress, but also discontent among the burgeoning working class. Russia, a vast empire with its roots in feudalism, struggled to adapt to these new realities. The Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905 exposed the weaknesses within the Russian military and government, further fueling the flames of discontent. As whispers of revolution began to circulate through the icy streets of St. Petersburg, Nicholas clung steadfastly to the autocratic traditions of his forefathers. Little did he know the stage was being set for a tumultuous downfall, one that would forever alter the course of Russian history. The year 1917 dawned with a sense of foreboding. The Great War, a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality, had taken a heavy toll on Russia. Millions of soldiers lay dead on distant battlefields, and the economy teetered on the brink of collapse. In February, a wave of protests fueled by food shortages and economic hardship swept through the capital. What began as peaceful demonstrations quickly escalated into a full-blown revolution. The Tsar, isolated in his palace, seemed powerless to stem the tide of unrest engulfing his nation. On March 2nd, 1917, Nicholas II, facing insurmountable pressure from his own generals and government officials, made the fateful decision to abdicate the throne. His reign, spanning over 3 centuries of Romanov rule, had come to an abrupt and unceremonious end. The Tsar and his family, once symbols of ultimate power and authority, were now prisoners of the very revolution they had sought to contain. Their fate, shrouded in uncertainty, would become a poignant reminder of the fickle nature of power and the tumultuous forces that shape history. As the French Revolution raged, a new breed of leader emerged from the ashes of the old order. Maximilien Robespierre, a lawyer from the provinces, rose to prominence as a champion of the people, his fiery speeches igniting the passions of the revolutionary crowds. Robespierre, known for his unwavering principles and austere lifestyle, earned the moniker the Incorruptible. He believed passionately in the ideals of the revolution, liberty, equality, fraternity, and saw himself as a guardian of these newfound freedoms. Yet within this fervent idealism lay the seeds of a dangerous dogma. Robespierre, convinced of his own righteousness, began to see enemies everywhere. Those who opposed his policies, questioned his methods, or dared to challenge his authority. The Reign of Terror, a period of unprecedented bloodshed and paranoia, became a chilling testament to the excesses of revolutionary zeal. Robespierre, once hailed as a liberator, was now the architect of a regime as brutal and unforgiving as the monarchy it had overthrown. With each passing execution, Robespierre's grip on power tightened. The guillotine, once a symbol of revolutionary justice, became an instrument of fear, silencing any voice that dared to dissent. However, the revolution, like a firestorm consuming all in its path, eventually turned on its own. Robespierre's allies, fearing for their own safety, began to question his motives and the spiralling violence he had unleashed. On July 27, 1794, Robespierre himself was arrested, accused of tyranny and counter-revolutionary activities. The very forces he had unleashed had turned against him, a stark reminder that even in the chaos of revolution, power is a fickle and fleeting prize. The following day, Robespierre, weakened and disillusioned, met his end at the hands of the same instrument that had claimed the lives of so many during his reign. His demise marked a turning point in the French Revolution, a sobering reminder that even the most ardent idealism can be corrupted by the intoxicating allure of power. In the scorching sands of North Africa, a new power emerged from the dust of revolution. Muammar Gaddafi, a young army officer, seized control of Libya in 1969, promising a new era of prosperity and Arab unity. Gaddafi's charisma and radical vision captivated many, both within Libya and across the Arab world. He challenged Western dominance, nationalized oil resources and implemented social programs, transforming Libya from a poor nation into one with the highest living standards in Africa. However, Gaddafi's rule was also marked by authoritarianism and human rights abuses. Dissent was ruthlessly suppressed, and his eccentric personality and erratic behavior increasingly alienated former allies. As decades passed, the promise of revolution faded, and Libya found itself increasingly isolated on the world stage, a powder keg waiting for a spark. In 2011, that spark came in the form of the Arab Spring. Inspired by uprisings in Tunisia and Egypt, Libyan citizens rose up against Gaddafi's decades-long rule. The protests were met with brutal force, plunging the country into a bloody civil war. The world watched in horror as Gaddafi's forces battled rebel groups for control of the nation. Despite international intervention, including NATO airstrikes against Gaddafi's forces, the conflict dragged on for months. The once prosperous nation was ravaged by violence and instability. Finally, in October 2011, Gaddafi was captured and killed by rebel forces near his hometown of Sirte, bringing a violent end to his 42-year reign. From the heart of medieval Europe emerges the tale of Charles I, King of England, Scotland and Ireland. Ascending the throne in 1625, Charles inherited a kingdom already fraught with religious and political tension. His belief in the divine right of kings, a concept that placed the monarch above Parliament's authority, set him on a collision course with his subjects. Charles's attempts to impose his will on Parliament and his pursuit of religious uniformity ignited a firestorm of discontent. The English Civil War erupted in 1642, pitting the royalists loyal to the king against the parliamentarians who sought to limit his power. The conflict raged for years, tearing the fabric of English society apart. Brother fought brother, and the idyllic countryside became a battleground as the two sides clashed in a bloody struggle for supremacy. Despite some early victories, Charles's forces were ultimately defeated. In 1649 he was captured, put on trial for treason against his own people, and found guilty by the court. The sentence, death. This marked a turning point in English history, a stark declaration that even a king was not above the law. On a cold January day in 1649, Charles I was led to a scaffold erected outside the banqueting house in Whitehall. He met his end with stoicism, his execution sending shockwaves throughout Europe. The monarchy was abolished, and England embarked on a brief experiment with republicanism under the rule of Oliver Cromwell. The legacy of Charles I, however, continues to resonate, a stark reminder of the fragility of power. From the Roman Republic to the Libyan desert, the stories of these powerful leaders serve as a potent reminder that even those who seem invincible are not immune to the tides of fate. Their tragic ends offer valuable lessons about the nature of power, the dangers of unchecked ambition, and the importance of listening to the voices of the people. If you found these tales of power and tragedy as captivating as I did, please consider subscribing to this channel, leaving a like, and sharing it with your friends and family. And don't forget to join us next time for another journey into the annals of history. Until then, may your own path be free from such tragic turns.